The first time you do this, it's so fun. It's like fabric magic. We're making a mini junk journal today, and I've got 3 fun sewing embellishment techniques to show you, including a ribbon flower and a yarn heart. Plus, I'm debuting a new segment at the end of this video, and I can't wait to show you. Here we go, y'all. Well, hello and welcome to Pink Paper Peppermints. My name is Melissa and I'm so glad you're here today. We are working with my So Easy mini junk journal kit and I'm so excited to show you how to put it together. This is the cover, but before we get started on the pages, I just wanted to show you kind of what I did with the pages. The kit comes with 16 pages like this that are 5 by 6 when you fold them in half. And you could print them back to back to get double-sided pages, but because of the size of them and that they're in the middle of the page and depending on your printer, you could have trouble getting them to line up. So what I did was to use the papers from the pattern paper set and print those on the backs of all the pages. And that way, when I cut it out, I just cut out the small page side and it automatically cuts out a perfect shape of the paper on the other side. And then one of the bonus benefits of that is that you get all these fun scraps to work with that you've cut off the side. And you can see that here you've got all these pretty scraps to work with, and you'll see that I will use these later on for something, and I'm sure I will use these for a lot of things. Scraps are my favorite thing. So let's take a look at all the pages once they were done. I'm showing you the front side, which is the side that comes with the kit, and then the back side, which is the side that came from the pattern paper kit. And you'll be able to see that when you look at the kit, if you look at it in the shop or if you've already purchased it. So here are all my pages. I've already folded them in half. I thought that would be kind of boring for you to watch, with the exception of this one. And I'm not sure what I did here, how I managed to get part of the logo and get it all cut off center here. I must have had this one upside down. Maybe I was cutting them 2 at a time. But I just wanted to show you how you could fix this if this happens to you. There's several things that you could do to fix this so you don't have to waste your ink and your paper. One is ribbon. That's some vintage ribbon that I have there. You could just sew or glue some ribbon along the bottom. Another thing that you could do is just sew a scrap piece of paper along the bottom. You could fold it up and create kind of a little mini pocket page. And of course this would be smaller than your main page, but you just add that in to your book and create that mini pocket page, and that actually might be fun to do anyway, even if you haven't messed up the bottom of the page like I did. And then the other one is to use those scraps that we talked about. This is a piece of the quilt paper that I cut off of one of the pages, and so I would just need to trim that white part off from my printer and either glue or staple or sew this onto the bottom, and then I've got the same size page and I have a pocket, and that is what I chose to do. I also added some lace at the top there, and of course I left all my strings down. Instead of cutting it off on the end, I just wrapped it around because I thought that would make a cute little tuck spot on that page. And so now I just have to fold that in half. It's a little trickier with the bulk of the pocket, but you can do it, no problem. And you can see there's my little tuck spot, and there are my pretty little pockets, and we can put journal cards or ephemera, anything in those while you're working on your journal. So this is the cover, and you can see that I've scored it already. It's super easy to score. I used a scoring board. Just follow those lines of the spine and score it, and that will give you a nice crisp fold on your spine. And I'm gonna do a really fun binding on this one, but we're not gonna do it in this video because it would just take too long. We're gonna do that in the next video. But for this video, I wanted to show you some sewing tricks that you can use on your pages, since this is a sewing themed book. You can see all my pages in there now, and I'm actually going to put it probably 3 signatures, put those pages, I think I have 18 pages altogether, so I'll put them in 3 signatures of 6 pages. So the first thing I want to show you is this paper. It's kind of like needlepoint canvas, and so I thought it would be fun to do kind of like a little cross-stitch design on it. And It's super simple to make your own cross-stitch design. You just need to have some graph paper, which you can print online for free, or if you've bought any of my kits, you probably have some because they're in a lot of my kits. And I just sketched out a heart and then filled in the X's you can see there. So you could draw a flower or a little bunny or butterfly and then just fill in the X's, and there's your cross-stitch pattern. Super simple. And so you can see kind of slightly there that I've marked those X's with a pencil lightly. And then when I first did it, I did it on this side, and then when I opened the page, I realized that I had made the other page upside down. So I didn't want that, so I flipped it over and did it on this corner, and now my page is right. And I'll just cover those pencil marks up at the top with some ephemera or lace or something like that. So if that happens to you, don't worry. I'm using a tapestry needle. It's kind of pointy, and it has a nice big eye, so it'll be easy to use. And this is the future me telling you that it wasn't that easy to use. It was a little too thick. So if you can use a little bit smaller needle, I would suggest that. And then I'm using some cotton yarn. You can pick this up at Hobby Lobby. I think it's like $1.99 for a spool of the cotton yarn. Now you could tie a knot in it so that it doesn't slip out, but then you're going to have a knot on the back. I kind of think that would be fun, but if you don't want a knot, I'm going to show you, you're just going to leave a tail. This is a little piece of crochet you remember from the last video that I used, and we're going to just use that as a soft place so that I can poke the holes where those X's are. So I'm just going to poke those holes with my needle because it's sharp enough, and again, it was a little big, so my holes were a little big, and they kind of ran together in spots, and I made it work, but like I said, if you have a smaller needle, it would probably be better. You can see my holes there, and you're just going to come in the back on the bottom right-hand hole. And this is for someone who hasn't cross-stitched before. If you have, then you know how to do this, but just in case you haven't. And we're going to leave a nice long tail. I actually made it a little shorter. I wish I would have made it a tiny bit longer, but you're going to leave a nice long tail, and you're just going to hold that with your finger while you finish the stitch. And then you're going to go up to the top left-hand hole, and you're making like a little dash mark. Now for this stitch, we're going to come back in the bottom left and go back up to the top right because this stitch is on a row by itself. So we're going to go ahead and complete the cross stitch. But on this next row, we have 3 stitches. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to come in that bottom right hole, and we're going to go in the top left hole, creating that little dash, or that little slash, I should say. And then we're going to do that same thing all the way across, bottom right up to top left. Now we won't waste thread because we're going to start on this end, and we're going to go in the bottom left hole up to the top right hole and cross. And for cross stitch, it looks nicer if all your stitches are going the same way. So that's one of the reasons we do that as well, so that all our stitches are going the same way. And you're just going to do that all the way across on your next row too. Just bottom right to top left all the way down, and then bottom left to top right all the way back. So you can see how beautiful that texture looks with that little yarn heart. And I want to try a butterfly next, I think. I think that would be really pretty. I absolutely love the texture that it creates. And there is our thread that we kind of left a tail. And as you can see, it could be a little bit longer. But let me show you what we're going to do if you don't want a tail and you don't want anything hanging down from your book. You're just going to take your needle and you're going to run it underneath one of the stitches and pull it through. And my needle comes off there, but that's okay. And you're going to create a loop. And before you pull it all the way, you want to take that end of the tail and pull it through the loop, and that's going to create a little knot. Now, if you're wanting to cut it off so that there's nothing sticking out, you want to probably do that twice and have a little knot twice. I love having those pieces of yarn hanging out the bottom of my book, so I'm not going to cut those off. And there's our beautiful little heart, and I think the texture of it is so pretty. I love the way the paper looks kind of busted open, and the yarn and everything. I just think it gives great texture. So this next one we're going to do is a ribbon flower, and we're using embroidery floss, that variegated floss that I showed you in the last video, and I will link her below again if you didn't see that last video. And embroidery floss comes with 6 pieces of thread twisted together, but we only need 2 for this. We want kind of a thin piece. So you're just going to separate out 2 and kind of hold it with your thumb and your fingers and use your index finger of your other hand and just gently pull it apart all the way down. When you get to the bottom, you're going to have to let it untwist a little bit because it likes to be all twisted up. And then we're going to thread our needle. And the needle we're using for this one is going to be more like an embroidery needle, just a smaller needle because of what we're working with. We're working with some ribbon. This is rayon ribbon. You can really use anything with this. I would say experiment and try anything that you want to try. You could use fabric, you could use seam binding, anything will work with this technique. And so basically what we're going to do, I tied a little knot in this string unlike the other one, and we're going to take these long stitches. I'm starting from the bottom of the ribbon coming up, and it's about a 3/4 of an inch stitch. And then I'm going to leave about that much space before I start the next stitch, and this is called a basting or a gathering stitch. And I'm going to just do that all the way to the end of the ribbon. We just want to have these nice long loose stitches, and this is going to help us create this ribbon flower. And the first time you do this, it's so fun. It's like fabric magic. So once you get to the end, you'll see it's already starting to pucker a little bit, and basically what you're going to do is take the end of your thread and you're just going to gently pull, and you don't want to pull too fast because you don't want it to bunch up too fast, but you're going to gently pull, and it's going to create this beautiful gathered ribbon look. It kind of looks like ribbon candy on the side, but we're not going to end there. Once we get it pulled up to where that tail kind of pops up like that, we're going to hold that in our hand, and we're going to hold the other tail in our hand, and we're just going to start to twist those in opposite directions. So you see on the right, I'm twisting right, and on the left, I'm twisting left. And you're just going to start twisting it, and you can see it starts to look kind of like a carnation or just a flower, a little wild flower. And then you're just going to play with it until you like the shape of it and you like the look of it. And then what I like to do is just take my needle and take a couple of little stitches through those tails to hold it in place. You could also use Fabrifix. I think that would be tricky to get it to stay in the shape. Then once I do that, I pull it tight and I pull those little tails out. Now you could cut those tails off if you don't want them to show, but you know how I like things sticking out, so I'm going to leave those tails and let them kind of stick out the side of the page. And that's how easy it is to do a ribbon flower. And so try it with all different ribbons, fabrics, scarves, vintage fabric. Just try it with everything because it's really fun. And it's another thing you can do with it is a great tag topper. If you take that and staple it to the top of a tag when maybe you don't have long strands of ribbon or you don't want long strands of ribbon, that's a great way to do it. So I decided to put my flower on my little pocket page, and I'm using some Fabrifix there, and I'm just going to push it down into that Fabrifix and hold it for just a minute, just so that Fabrifix, it sets pretty quickly, but I still hold it for a while. And if you're worried about it, you could put some books on top of it and let it dry. And I've got my little tail sticking out there, and there it is. And I love that. I think that's the perfect touch to that pocket. So there is our little book. So far we had 3 fun fabric stitching techniques. We stitched a pocket on and some lace, and we created our little needlepoint heart, and we created our little fabric ribbon flower. So I've got my signatures. You can see there's 3 signatures now. I've broken them up into 3 sets of 6 pages, and if you want, we can just flip through and take a look at that paper and how it looks all put together. I think it's so fun picking out your papers and deciding what paper is going to face what side. I usually end up changing it too, but these are our beautiful pages. So while we're finishing up looking at these pages, I wanted to tell you that in the next video, I am going to show you some ideas for decorating these pages and putting the book together. And then I'm going to show you that fun binding technique that I told you about. So now it's time for my new feature at the end of my videos. I am calling it the Peek of the Week from Pink Paper Peppermints. And what I'm going to do is show you whatever my new fun vintage finds are. I thought that would be something that would be really fun. And the first one is this beautiful ribbon. I got this from a lady on Instagram, and I will link her below. And I just fell in love with the packaging. You know, when you're looking on Instagram, you can't really pick it up or touch it, but I loved the packaging. And then when I opened it, I saw that it said blue pink, and I was like, what does that mean? And I peeled back that tape and saw the beautiful pink underside of this ribbon, and I was so excited. It's just the most beautiful double faced satin ribbon, which it says right on the package, but I didn't notice that at first. I just saw the Peter Pan and I thought it was so beautiful. And I even love the paper that's in between the layers of the ribbon. It's just everything about it I just love. So I was really excited about that find. The other thing I got from her was this little set of needles, and I don't know about y'all, but I absolutely love buying vintage things that you can tell have been used and loved, and this still had needles tucked in with thread in them, and I loved how it had fabric in it and how the 3 packages of needles were all layered together. And I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of weird like that, but I just love everything about vintage things like that. And then finally, these were my favorite thing that I got from her. These giant spools with vintage trim on them, the pink and the blue. I mean, they just could not be more beautiful. I love the illustrations. I love the language that they use. I love everything about it. I love how they call it fancy sweater trim and winsome lady trimmings. I just love everything about it. And I also thought it was so fun that they put see it, touch it, and they've got a little piece of the lace sticking out at the top there so that you can actually touch it and see it in the store. And I think that's brilliant because they know we want to feel that textile and be able to see it close up. And I thought that was such a fun packaging idea. And I just love that she kept this. She probably saved it forever wanting to use it for something special. And I can relate because I don't know how easy it's going to be for me to use it. This one I think probably was lace added to this packaging after she already used what was on there, and I just think the lace is beautiful too, and I just love those spools. I just think they're wonderful. Well, that was my peek of the week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this video, you will probably love my Summer Stories mini pocket album video. I've got lots of fun techniques in there about documenting your summer adventures and just putting together a summer mini album. So I hope you'll pop over there and take a look at that video after this one. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all your likes and comments. I appreciate them so much. And I hope that you have a week filled with peace and grace, and I'll see you next time here on Pink Paper Peppermints.